Okay, live. Back to lives, sharing content. I've been doing the lives with gratitudes, which is always fun, but this is some content. This is some stuff that'll really, you could sink your teeth into. I hope that's my intention, that this information tonight will help you move you on your journey towards living peacefully, releasing some stress, keeping your body healthy. So that's my goal, right? That's what I'm all about. That's my jam. And so I'm going to give you some information tonight that I hope will make a difference for you. So if you're watching on StreamYard and this is going to multiple places, I can only see comments from one place. I don't get comments from all the different places. So that doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. I will go back when the broadcast is over and look and see if there are comments and questions. So if I don't respond while I'm talking, I'll go back and check in all the other places and make sure that I address any questions that you have. I wanted to talk about heart-brain connection. If you're on my email list, I've sent recent emails out about that. If you saw the announcement for this live, you saw some heart wave patterns, and we're going to talk about how your stress affects that, what the connection is between your heart and your brain, why it's important for your health, for your nervous system, for your stress management. First, I want to start with a story from like 30 years ago. I've always been in exercise and wellness and health. I'm an exercise physiologist and a trainer. And 30 years ago or so, I had a client who was, she was a woman. She was probably around 40 at the time, and she was decided to train for a marathon. So she was doing her running. She did, obviously when you're training for a marathon, most people put in a lot of running every week. So she was doing a lot of running. She had a really great diet, at least at that time. What runners ate did have a lot of pasta because we knew about, or the thinking was at the time, carbo loading, and maybe it still is in that world. I'm not in that world so much anymore, but she had a really healthy diet. And she was doing, like I said, a lot of miles every week. I would say on a weekly basis, she was doing 20 to 30 miles a week, training up for this marathon. And she spent a year doing that. And I worked with her, not on the running part. She was doing that on her own, but I worked with her on stretching, helping her with her flexibility, some strength training to keep her legs strong. And what this client noticed was that at the end of that year, she did the marathon and she did fine. She ran whatever, I don't remember what her time was, but she was happy with her time. But a couple of things she noticed. Number one, over the course of that year, she actually put weight on. And part of her motivation for doing a marathon was to take weight off. So this was a 40-year-old, 40-ish, in her 40s woman, mom. She actually was a professor, so she had a pretty stressful job. And she's training for this marathon and she puts weight on, which was like, what? What the heck is going on? Not only that did she put weight on over the course of the year, but her sleep got worse. She was had more and more difficulty going to sleep at night. And her thinking was, I'm so exhausted. I'm so, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, I've been training, I've been running, I've been doing my job, I've been being a mom. I'm exhausted. And then I go to bed and I can't go to sleep. So that was my first inclination, like to start to look, because as an exercise physiologist at that time, what I had been taught, what we did was you exercise harder, right? When you exercise harder, your body's going to respond. After the marathon, she was like, I'm done with that. I'm not going to run. I'm glad I did it. I proved I can, but I actually put weight on and I'm more exhausted than ever. So I'm not going to do that. And the following year, she was my client for several years. So the following year, she started doing Tai Chi. She did yoga. We continued to do strength training. That was really what I was doing with her. And like I said, the flexibility. But she took on yoga and Tai Chi, and she just really like totally dropped her level of exercise. And do you know what happened? Weight came off. She dropped about 15 pounds the year after the marathon. She hadn't put on 15. She had put on, I don't know, 6 or 7 in the year of training, which she wanted to take some weight off. And then her net drop the following year was down 15 and sleeping better. Her skin cleared up. So this is not about marathons. What this is about is understanding how our body responds under stress. And what I know now is the stress that she was under in the training, being a mom, her job, that put her nervous system in a particular place where the expected outcomes of sleep hard because I'm exhausted and lose some weight because I'm exercising, they didn't happen. Her body didn't do that. And that was my first experience at really seeing stress is going to work against you, really, in any endeavor, certainly in your physical attempts if you want to change your health, and also in your relationships. And I'm going to talk about that. Like, really, stress affects my relationships? It absolutely does, because it affects the way your brain processes information. It affects your ability to communicate and make decisions. And that's going to have a direct impact on the people in your life. So about 40 years ago, so this client was 30-ish years ago. So about 40 years ago, a lot of research started to happen around stress, the nervous system, and the connection between the brain and the heart. So I hadn't heard about it yet. It was maybe 10 years in, but it was still being talked about at the universities and the research institutions, and it hadn't trickled out into, at least into my world, but I think really to the general population. And now it's really becoming such an important tool for people to have the life that they want to have and have the health that they want to have. So let me explain to you what the heart-brain connection is. When I was in school, the way I learned about the body, I kind of thought the brain was this master computer, right? This master control center, and it gave the rest of the body all the information, and my body, our bodies just responded depending on what the brain said. Now, what we know, and that information got sent out through neural pathways, right, through the nervous system. What we know now through heart-brain research is that the heart actually gives the brain much more information than the brain gives the heart. So the heart is giving, through the same pathways, the same neural pathways, the heart is giving the brain information, and that is influencing emotional processing. It's influencing your higher cognitive faculties. So the way the brain is working, how you can pay attention. And you know, when you're stressed out, like you can't focus, right? It affects how you pay attention. It affects your perception and your memory. How many people are like, I have brain fog. I have brain fog. I can't remember stuff. Stress, really, you notice when you're under stress, that affects that. It's because this heart-brain, this incoherent pattern, which I'm going to show you as we continue to talk, is going to affect that, your memory, your perception, your ability to problem solve. It's going to affect your ability to make decisions and to communicate powerfully and effectively because you're in reactive mode. So heart-brain coherence is if the heart and the brain, it's like a two-way highway, is sending information to each other, and really understanding that the heart is sending the more of the information, the bulk of the information is coming this way rather than this way. The pattern that looks like is very important. When the pattern looks coherent and smooth, our bodies get great information and we do the things that we want to do and we function well. When the pattern is very incoherent, it's a whole other story. So the different patterns of heart activity are related to the emotions that you're feeling. So whatever emotions you're feeling, that has a very distinct effect on your cognitive ability and your emotional function. Okay. When you're stressed and you have a lot of negative emotions, fear, worry, anger, anxiety, any of those, then the heart rhythm becomes, as I said, erratic and disordered, and that sends a very irregular pattern to the brain. The brain gets this irregular pattern, and so now that's the information it has to send out to the rest of the body. So the information going out to the rest of the body is chaotic. It makes sense for the body to say, something wrong is going on. Let me shut down my regular processes. Let me limit digestion. Let me conserve my energy to the immune system, to healing from viruses, from cancer, from an accident, a broken leg. Let me conserve my energy because I'm under threat, because I'm having this incoherent, irregular pattern that has me feel like I'm under threat. That's what's happening. So it limits, let's talk just about the neurology right now. It limits your ability to think clearly, as I said, to remember, to learn, to reason, to make effective decisions. And you end up acting under impulse when you're under stress. All right, let me see if I can share my screen. I wanted to show you. Okay. There's a few things I want to show you, but right here, I hope you can see this. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, okay, since I brought this up, we'll come back to this. But these are, if you have any of these issues, then your heart rate variability, your heart coherence is going to make a difference. I'm going to come back to that. I hit the wrong thing, sorry. This is the one I wanted you to see. Okay, can you see this? So here is when you're in incoherence. As I said, frustrated, anxious, worry, fearful, irritated, angry. This is what the pattern looks like in the neurology going to your brain, the neural pathways. When you are experiencing gratitude, appreciation for something, love, care, the whole wave pattern changes. It becomes coherent, meaning the highs and the lows become consistent. The space between each of these becomes consistent. And that gives your entire body a particular message. Somebody says, this is spot on. I have to finish watching later. The iPad keeps stopping and loading and making me stressed. Don't get stressed. This is going to be recorded so you can see it later. Okay. Let me, I guess I stopped sharing. I don't see it anymore, so I guess I stopped sharing. Okay. So what else did I want to say? All right. So that's what happens when you're incoherent. When you're coherent, the opposite happens. Your ability to perceive information, to be creative, to think and feel and perform all gets enhanced, which is awesome, right? That improves. So now if you're going to look at your pattern over time, that's the one, hold on. If you were to look at your pattern over time, oh, I got rid of it. All right. When we look at a pattern over time, we're looking at your heart rate variability. So that means how much does your heart rate vary? How able are you to go from stress to relaxation, because what's happening is your nervous system, which is the system governing this whole neural pathway, right? Brain to heart, heart to brain, has two parts to it. One part is the gas pedal in your car, like in your car. The other part is like the brake pedal in your car. And those two systems are constantly reading the situation and working with each other. So it's kind of like in some of the training that I read, it was like picture like a person on a tennis court, and they're constantly like, they're ready, right? They're sitting there with the racket and they're ready for where's the ball coming from. And so that ability to move from the brake to the gas, the brake to the gas, the brake to the gas, that is your heart rate variability. And your ability to do that really determines how your health is going to be, how your stress level, how your thinking is going to be, your perceptions. So apparently I cleared the screens that I brought up before to show you. But if you saw that briefly, it showed who benefits from improving their heart rate variability. So remember, it's the variability, your ability to go from stress back to relaxation. So when somebody is constantly stressed, they are not getting the brake put on very often. The brake isn't happening. They're staying with the gas pedal on, staying on, staying on, staying on. So then when the brake happens, it's like their body doesn't have great capability. It's got low variability. We want high variability. We want a good ability to vary from stress to relaxation, so that when a stressful situation comes up, you've got the resources to go there. And then when you've handled it, you've got the ability to shut it off and to relax. Like my client from my story at the beginning, she couldn't go to sleep because she couldn't shut off the stress that her body was under. A lot of that was physical stress, like the running and the training, but it was also, managing her time around doing that training with her job and being a mom and being a wife, all of that. So there was emotional stress as well. We talk about the psychophysiological coherence. Psycho, meaning what you're thinking, physiological, how your body's functioning, coherence. And that is directly related to your heart-brain coherence. I hope this is making sense. So when we look at your heart rate variability and your ability to maneuver from gas to brake, that tells us, that's like a window into the function of your autonomic nervous system. That's a window into the function of your whole nervous system and how it's managing its job and the messages it's giving to your body. So again, if you're with the gas pedal on and you don't know how to, your body doesn't know how to come out of that, its only choice is to say, we need gas to go down this highway. We are flying on this highway. So we're going to shut down digestion. Can't be bothered with that right now. We're going to shut down with healing. This is not the time for healing. We're going to shut down with thinking creatively, with thoughtful communication, because it's the time to be in flight. And if you don't shut that down, that's how your body stays. It stays in that predicament. And so what happens? As an FDN, I was working with a lot of people. What happens is their gut health becomes terrible, right? They have digestive issues, pathogens that their body normally would be able to handle, set up shop because the body's not paying attention. So they're like, woohoo, I can set up shop here and live here because nobody's taking care of me. So parasites, bad bacteria, viruses. Why does one person get Lyme disease, recover, and they're fine, and someone else gets Lyme disease and it stays in their body for 30 years? We're not that different of a machine, right? We've all got the right parts. But if that person's body that can't overcome the Lyme disease is staying in a stressed, elevated state, they can't take care of the Lyme disease. Okay? So that's a big reason why we're seeing chronic health issues across the board just running rampant with people, because our stress levels, yes, there's other things to look at, right? Like the food that you're eating and all of that. But what I've learned, you can change your food. You can work on your sleep. You can implement the appropriate exercise, whether it's put in exercise or decrease your exercise because you were over exercising. You can do all of that. But if you don't address your heart rate variability, your nervous system, your stress response, all of those things are only going to take you so far. And I'm telling you that from personal experience. I'm telling you that from my own life, from someone who kept developing autoimmune conditions because my immune system could not get regulated because I had years and years and years of stress. And the years and years and years of stress started in my childhood. It started growing up in an alcoholic household. So when I start to work with people, we have to look at their emotions and their thoughts as far back as childhood, because that's when things started. That's when certain neural pathways of thinking, ways of thinking got shaped. And those ways of thinking are staying in their body and triggering the emotions. And then the emotions are telling the brain more of the same, and it becomes a cycle. So ways that you can improve your heart rate variability. First of all, your variability does decline as you get older. So your variability gets lower. We want high variability, right? We want great ability to go back and forth. That gets lower and lower with age. But when you look at your age, you don't want low variability for your age group. So I'm not going to compare myself. I'm almost 60 years old. I'm not going to compare myself to a 20-year-old, but I'm going to compare myself to other women in their late 50s and say, how do I compare? And if I have much worse heart rate variability, my chances for ongoing chronic illness increase. My chances for problems in my relationships increase. My chances for earlier mortality increases. So you want to get that heart rate variability and that coherence under control. So how do we do that? Breath work is really key, because your breath tells your heart and your brain you're not in trouble. When you do regular breath work, slow, deep breaths, and you practice it, and there's a ton on YouTube, and I do a few different techniques with my clients, but you can go and find a lot of different options for breath work. The important part is the consistency. The important part is to break that cycle and get your body back into the resting part. But breath work is a great way to do it. Just deep breathing. Exercise, as I said, if you're not exercising, put movement into your daily life. Not only is it going to help your body, but it's also going to help move the energy out of your body, the energy of the emotions of fear, anxiety, anger, whatever emotions you're carrying since childhood. Movement will help move the energy out. It's energy, just like, this light that's shining on me, or an ultrasound, or anything. It's energy, and it's stuck in your body. So the movement will help move that out. You want to work on your thought patterns, which I already mentioned, but changing your thoughts helps change your emotions. Changing your emotions helps change your thoughts. The feelings and the emotions are key. So I've recently changed one of the groups that I run to Return to Love. Every day I try to go on and talk about gratitude. And it might sound new agey, Pollyanna-ish to say that love will cure you. But I'm hoping this conversation shows you it's actually true. Love will cure you. When you get your heart to feel love, gratitude. That's why I do gratitudes every day. Listen, there's a self-interest in the gratitudes. I want my heart and my brain to have a calm nervous system. It's not just about putting on a smile and being positive. I'm committed to reversing the years of stress that my body lived under. And I do that with appreciation and getting present to love. So love is what heals you, even if it sounds like however it might sound. It does. So working on your emotions, and those two, the thoughts and the emotions, they feed each other. They come from your experiences. We have to break old pattern and habits and ways of thinking, and we have to practice changing your emotions. But those are the things that are going to affect your coherence and your psychophysiological coherence, right? How your body is doing based on what your brain and heart are telling it. Okay, so I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to tell you. If I think of it, I'll post it. If you have any questions, please. Oh, I remember what it was. One other thing that can really help you with shifting your emotions is focusing. So we tend to focus on what we're worried about. That's the thing that goes around and around and around in our head. We focus on what we're worried about. We focus on what we don't want to have happen, and then we're in fear. We focus on what somebody did to us, and then we stay angry. It's not like this is easy, but if you can start to practice, let me focus on what I want to have happen. Let me focus on, that's the gratitudes. Let me focus on what is good in my life. Let me focus on what's working. You can always focus on what's not working. There's always going to be plenty of evidence about what's not working, and it will take no effort to put your attention there. You've got to practice putting your attention on what is working. You've got to practice noticing what you can celebrate rather than complain about. You've got to practice every day getting your heart to feel love. So when you're in your car driving to work and somebody cuts you off, you're probably not going to go to love right away, right? You're going to go to annoyance, frustration, whatever. You get called into a meeting, a coworker does something and they always push your buttons. Your kids, when you get home, clothes are all over the place, homework isn't done, people aren't getting up on time to get out. It's not easy, but it takes practice. And that's just like simple terms. There's a great saying that I like to say when I'm working with my clients, and the time to do the practice and to work on, to sharpen your sword, the time to sharpen your sword is before you go into battle. So that means you want to be doing these things so when a really stressful situation comes up, when you're told your child needs a kidney transplant, when you're told your child has tumors in her brain, that's the time when you want that sharp sword so that you can stay in control of making the decisions that you need to make, staying related to your husband rather than fighting out of the fear you're both in. I'm speaking, this is all of my life, okay? I'm not making this up. This is my life. That's what happened, right? I didn't have a sharp sword, so I didn't have another way to go a lot of the time when stress brought me to my knees and knocked me in the face. You want to practice when it's just run-of-the-mill stuff. You want to practice every day, so when those things show up, you are ready. You have a sharp sword before you go into battle, and you know how to use it. Okay, there I go. 30 minutes exactly. That's my goal. So I'm going to let you go. I will have the recording will be up later if you didn't get to watch, and I'll check all the places to see if there are any questions. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you, I think Wednesday in the middle of the day. I'm going to do another live. We're going to keep working in this topic for a little bit. Okay, have a great night. Bye.